What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk to you about Lucid. I want to go over some expectations for this upcoming week, what might cause some volatility in the stock price, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So starting off with macro data. Monday, we don't really have too much. We have Dallas Manufacturing Index. Current forecast for that is -1, but Tuesday is going to be the big day for the market. So we have ADP employment, the weekly, PPI, retail sales, and also consumer confidence, all of which have proven that they can move the market. And then aside from that, we did luckily have on Friday, Williams signaling that we might be seeing potentially a December cut. It might be premature for them to kind of say that, but nonetheless, market did truly believe them. So that caused this to go from roughly about 30% to about 71% of a likelihood of a 25 basis point cut. With Tuesday's data, this will either jump to 100% or go back down to 20 to 30%. And that is going to really work out to a lot of volatility. So Tuesday is going to be a very, very big day for the broader market. Aside from that, on Wednesday, we have a couple of key ones that might kind of link to consumers, and that would be mortgage applications, and then as well initial jobless claims. Friday and also Thursday is going to be quiet because of Black Friday. So Thursday, the markets are only open up until I think it is 1 o'clock. Friday, regular business hours. One thing that I do really like about Fridays, after, of course, a holiday, especially in the States, is technically the market's open, but a lot of big bankers and whatever else, they kind of have a long weekend, right? So typically that does mean that we can have some insight to see who is shorting Lucid. And in the past, I've kind of come to the conclusion that it's not American entities that's really shorting Lucid, which is kind of interesting, right? And what I mean by all that, in case you guys are curious, so typically, like I said, with Friday, technically the market being open, just majority of people take the day off. So when it comes down to shorts, so for instance, if shorts don't do anything, then we can come to the conclusion that it's most likely American entities that is shorting Lucid. But if, let's say on Friday, shorts are very, very active, then it is fair to assume that it is either Canadian, European, or potentially another foreign entity that is shorting Lucid. Because regrettably, 13Fs do not disclose who is shorting a stock, unless it's kind of voluntarily given, but nobody wants to be seen as the bad guy. So I think I'm rather excited for Friday just to kind of see that. But if you are American, happy kind of Black Friday and kind of long weekend and that kind of stuff. So aside from that, though, these are the companies unveiling the earnings. I don't really see any of this really impacting the broader market at all. So let me know your general thoughts on that in the comments below. Aside from that, and more specific to Lucid, this is some of their events. So they're still doing some of the pop-ups. LA Auto Show is up until the 30th, but we've already seen Lucid put out their news. So that's where they did unveil and launch, I guess, the touring, Gravity touring. So good stuff. We just have to kind of wait and see how things do really play out from that. Only thing that has really come out recently was this. So Lucid to the Moon did post, I think it's from LinkedIn, Mark's comments. And this is clearly because of Mark and other individuals meeting in Washington. Yes, some people are really hyping this up. I personally don't really see this being that crazy of like, hey, you need to go out and buy Lucid ASAP. This, like, Mark is pretty much already saying what we already know. AMP2 is going to be a very big deal. Mark, Lucid, they're all kind of committed to helping Saudi Arabia, and Saudi Arabia in turn is going to help Lucid financing and keep backing Lucid. So I don't think any of this is known or like new information, but I could be wrong. Let me know your general thoughts on that in the comments below. Going into this upcoming week, 29.73% of the free floats being shorted, works out to be 42.8 million shares overall are being shorted. I think overall over this weekend, people are just not really talking about the big elephant in the room. So we had a pretty horrific last week. A lot of people, like, their portfolios went down a lot, mine included. And then we did have a nice recovery on Friday. But for those of you that, again, that like to follow my channel, I like to go over where volume does come from. And so, for instance, when it comes down to Lucid, most of the volume did come from algorithmic trading. And it wasn't just Lucid. Most stocks actually had that same type of flow. And you can see that from this right here. A lot of the smaller transactions, that's just algorithmic trading. So AI was artificially pushing the market higher. So this is where a lot of people want to know, what is truly coming this upcoming week? Was Friday just more of a bull trap and that we're going to continue to go down? Or is this actual legitimate optimism that we're going to really move higher? On Lucid's chart going into this upcoming week, things don't look great. Of course, it's below all the key pivotal moving averages. Only thing positive is the fact that it is very, very oversold. So, for instance, if something positive does come out, then we could see a very nice kind of push higher. So far, at the time of doing this video, nothing positive has really come out. You see Trump kind of talking about Venezuela. So I think the market might not necessarily like that 100%. But as far as any potential catalysts, I think it is going to come down to Tuesday. So Monday is going to be a big day, like I said, but there is some opportunities for Lucid to really move higher. You can kind of see from this market position that there is a couple of gaps that do essentially need to be filled. But of course, when it comes down to technicals, like, does every gap need to be filled? No. Most of the time they do, but do they? Most not, definitely not. So I think in general, there is some opportunity to make some pretty good money swing trading Lucid, but it is all going to be coming down to, like I said, Tuesday. Coming from a bull standpoint, you see a consensus for it to be roughly around that $13 to $14. And that optimism has definitely dropped tenfold. And I think it's just the market conditions at the time. And then from a bear standpoint, you see a consensus for it to be kind of between that 11 to 12. So given where it did close on Friday, there is more upside anticipated than down. Of course, as I already mentioned numerous times, it's going to largely come down to Tuesday's data, whether it pushes higher or lower. Ultimately, with it at 12.30, it is trading between this R1 and the pivot. So 12.11, 11.65, and then 11.37 is going to be support points. And then worst case scenario, 10.92, which would be absolutely crazy, but just kind of take a mental note of that. So if you're wanting to dollar cost average, swing trade, just kind of orient a lot of your buys around there. Flip side, 1256, 1284, and then 1330 is going to be the next strong target / resistance points. And just to give you a quick overview of where I realistically see us going. So looking at the 4-hour chart, so with this at 1230, I do feel realistically we could have a nice recovery to that S1 to this S2. As I've already mentioned, many individuals on Twitter are forecasting for Lucid to recover to $17 this week. I definitely don't see that on the table unless somehow Lucid has something in their back pocket that they can put out, such as a partnership. But I feel like they would have done that already if they had it. Because one thing I've started to notice with Lucid is they really want to put out news ASAP. So as soon as it comes in, they put it out. So I feel like they don't really have that much in secrets aside from the mid-size. But I do realistically feel that we should have a nice little bit of a recovery between this S1 and this S2. But as I already mentioned now, like 4 or 5 times, it's all going to come down to the data. So let me know your thoughts on Lucid. Where do you realistically see things going? Do you think that we're going to be having another consolidation week, another red week, or do you think that it is going to have a nice recovery? What's your kind of general thoughts on all that? And then one final thing, pop over to my Stacked account. I just put out a Black Friday promotion under the swing trade. So for $10 a month, you can get daily day trades, swing trades. So worthwhile to kind of pop over there and check that out. Take advantage of that while you can. Like I said, it's only going to be up until Black Friday. So with all that said, appreciate all of you watching.